Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Long 2 NBA podcast. This is episode number 33 or 32, I think. Either way, I'm with my co-host, Seth.
Hello. Again, Nathan couldn't be here.
Yeah, Nathan couldn't be here today. He's got to work, so that sucks. But before we get into everything, I just want to thank you guys real quick for 3,400 subscribers. We hit that pretty recently.
Yeah, we're getting up there.
Yeah, every day we're getting more subs, so hopefully you guys are enjoying the podcast and stuff. So for today, we're just going to talk about the MVP race, the Rookie of the Year race, playoff push, and all the playoff teams, and just kind of talk about them all. And also, what's wrong with the Celtics. So the first thing, just a couple things to get out of the way. Jaren Jackson Jr. had a quad injury, so he's going to be out for the foreseeable future, however long that means.
Right.
And then Marvin Bagley is out 1 to 2 weeks with the knee sprain, which is going to affect the Kings' playoff hopes.
Yeah.
Because he's emerged as one of their best players.
Right. He was slow at the start of the season, but he picked it up, and of course, injury happens.
Yeah. It's just sometimes it just seems like as soon as a player starts to do well, something wrong happens. But he'll be back. Good thing it's nothing serious. He'll be back in 1 to 2 weeks. So I don't know if that said reevaluated in 1 to 2 weeks or he's coming back. Probably coming back because I guess if it's nothing serious, then no sense keeping him out, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Especially if they're trying to make this playoff push, and they'll need him to do that. So, but they're going to have to win like almost all of their games, I would guess.
Right.
Especially against teams that are already in the playoffs. All right, and then Spurs bought out Pau Gasol, and he's going to sign with the Bucks, which gives them
a lot of
championship experience because he's won 2 with the Lakers.
Mm-hmm.
And he can still contribute. I mean, he's not the player he once was, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, playing second fiddle to Kobe back in the day. About how long ago was that? Let's see. Let me think. Probably close to 10 years ago ish.
Yeah.
That 2010 run.
Mm-hmm. Had the flowy hair.
Yeah. 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 He gives the Bucks a lot. He's just another quality player they're gonna have with championship DNA. And who knows how to play basketball is just a good player.
Right. He's definitely one of those glue guys, I think, which the Bucks don't have an issue with at all to begin with.
He's a vet, which obviously will help any team.
He should fit right in. I'm sure he'll be happy to be competing.
Yeah, and be happy to. I mean, he's going to go farther with the Bucks than the Spurs will go for sure. I mean, the Bucks could get to the finals,
and the Spurs don't really utilize him as much as
Yeah, because he's older now, and he'll be able to play a lesser role and succeed more in Milwaukee, I think, because the role he plays in San Antonio is a little bit too much for a guy his age or a guy at his stage in his career, I guess.
So he's kind of taking a little bit of a load off, but in a better situation. I think this is
I think
he'll be all-around win for him.
I think he'll be able to contribute more in Milwaukee.
Most definitely, because I'm guessing it's kind of like a replacing the whole Thonmaker situation.
Yeah. But he'll be much better than Thonmaker.
Oh yeah, I know that much.
Yeah, and Milwaukee has a great coach in Bud, so he'll easily find a role for him to succeed in and to contribute. So I'm excited to see how that works out. It's cool how both the Gasol brothers got into a better situation.
Right.
On the 2 best teams in the East.
Right, yeah.
You know,
that'll be some cool battles. I'll enjoy that.
Yeah, they've gone against each other in the playoffs before. Remember the Spurs Grizzlies series in 2017?
Yeah.
When the Spurs went to the Western Conference Finals and then Kawhi got hurt. That was a hell of a series. Marc Gasol hit like a game winner in one of those games. I think it was Game 4. That was a hell of a game. I remember that playoffs. Okay. Do you want to go ahead and talk about the Celtics?
Yeah, we can.
I mean, we've been talking about them all year.
Right, because it's just such a strange situation.
Yeah, there's been more advancements. So they won last night. They beat Washington, which isn't too much of an accomplishment. But I looked at the
unless Beal drops like 45, it's not that big of a deal.
I didn't watch the game because obviously I was elsewhere, which we'll get to.
Right.
But I looked at the box score, and the points were very evenly distributed. Mm-hmm. Like, nobody scored over 20, I don't think. I'm going to fact check that real quick. I'll tell you what the actual numbers were, because it looked like they played as a team, which they need to do. All right, so let's see. Nobody scored over 20. It was 10, 17, 18, 16, 13, 13. That was, their starting 5 plus their 6 guys.
That's been one thing I've seen is a lot more unselfish play. No contested Tatum twos.
Yeah.
No Kyrie. I gotta force this basket unless it's like go time.
Mm-hmm. So their 4-game losing streak. I'm gonna pull up their schedule also so I can tell you exactly who they lost to. I know they lost to the Trailblazers and they lost to. Let me just pull it up.
Bulls.
Yeah, they lost. That was a bad loss to the Bulls.
That was rough. I watched that and I was like, "Is this really happening?"
Yeah, they play the Rockets tomorrow, so that'll be a good test for them. Let me see. So before they beat Washington last night, they lost to Portland, Toronto, Milwaukee, and Chicago. 3 of those teams are good teams. Obviously, the blowout against the Bulls was bad. I mean, it wasn't really a blowout. They lost by 10, but still, that's a bad loss.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we've been talking about them all year. We've talked about how the younger players stepped up last year and have had to take a significant decrease in their role, and that's created issues. And we've seen what seems to be a really bad internal chemistry issue from the outside looking in, because guys are just being short, like especially Kyrie. He's being rude to the media and just, that's Marcus's opinion, or I don't know, it's up to Brad. Just being super.
He's being very shady.
Yeah, for sure. And everyone's like, "Oh, he's gone." And I'm starting to.
He gone.
Honestly, I'm starting to see it because last night, seeing the box score and whatnot, to me that's a good sign, because there was ball movement, and obviously just based on, I didn't watch the game, but I can tell just based on that box score that they played as a team.
Right.
And in the past, they kind of just look like a bunch of individuals, and there's no cohesive team play or togetherness. They're all just kind of out there playing for themselves, if that makes sense. And to be a good team, like we see with the Bucks and the Raptors, and like the Nuggets and the Jazz, those type of teams, they all play with ball movement and a system of togetherness and team play that sets them apart from everybody else.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's the groundwork of a contender, of a good team. Yeah, I'll explain the voice cracking in a little bit. I had a lot of stuff to say about this, but it's been a few days, and everything I've said, it's kind of hard to remember.
No, you're fine. I think that one of the funniest things I've seen come out of this is that's that top to bottom comparison thing of when LeBron was looking at Kyrie
oh yeah,
you serious? And
then
it was Kyrie looking at Tatum.
Yeah, that is a funny meme. I saw that.
God.
It's like, man, how quickly things can change in 2 to 3 years,
Right.
But I can't remember what all I was saying. I was basically saying just they're not playing together, and the 4 straight losses is bad, especially against playoff teams that you've lost to. It's like, that's not a good look for you as a team, because if you don't, you've only got 20, I think less than 20 now games to figure this out, and if they don't figure it out by the playoff time, they could very easily lose in the first round.
Right.
Because Philly's playing better team ball than them, and if they
match
up with
just
Philly
assimilating their final roster.
Yeah, and if they match up in the first round, we've talked about it before. I said neither of those teams want to see each other, because either of them could be gone in the first round, and I don't think that would be very good for the playoffs.
Right.
Because I want to see both of those teams in the second round.
Yeah, I think a lot of people
conference finals.
That. Yeah.
So I just hope Indiana falls, or at least Boston falls to the 6th seed, so they can play Indiana, and then advance to the second round. But that's not to what do you say? Not to discredit Indiana and what they've done this year, because they're a phenomenally coached team and a great team with players that play hard.
Somewhat staying afloat without Oladipo.
They're staying very afloat. It's just, I don't know if I would trust them to beat Boston in the first round if they play them, or Philly even.
It's kind of what Chris Paul said. It's I can't see someone beating blah 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 in a series.
Yeah, exactly. They're like a regular season success team, but when it comes to playoffs, I'm not quite sure I can trust them.
That's how it's felt with the Pacers, Blazers.
Yeah, they're kind of
even as great as the Raptors look right now. Some people are still like, eh.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I trust them a lot more than I did a few weeks ago.
Okay, yeah, me too. But if it's like a gentleman's sweep first round, I can't imagine the uproar from the fans. Just come on.
A gentleman's sweep of who? Oh, you mean if they get gentlemen? If they lose in 5 in the first round?
Right.
No way in hell that happens. They're gonna sweep the first round. I'm pretty sure.
You think so?
Yeah, they're gonna play like, I don't know, the Hornets or Detroit or something.
Bro, I was looking at the East, like 8th seed, and it's just a toss-up. It's so funny just how like
7 and 8 are just not good teams. It's like Hornets and Detroit. Right. I'm pretty sure.
Right, they're bottom feeder teams and can barely get wins. I mean,
but they're gonna finish under 500 and make the playoffs. You know, it's. I wish we could just fast forward. Just give the series to Milwaukee and Toronto automatically, you know, so we can just move on. I don't want to watch either of those.
You don't want to watch demolition.
I probably won't watch either of those, a single game from either of those series, but I will watch whoever Brooklyn plays in the playoffs, whether it's the Pacers or I don't know, Philly or Boston. You know, whoever if Indiana slides out of that 3rd spot, whoever moves in there, I'll definitely watch them because the Nets have they're a fun team to watch, and they have that team play that I mentioned earlier, and they have the emerging stars and stuff, so I'm excited to watch them in the playoffs. Yeah. I've been referring to them as the playoff Nets. So I can't wait to see what they do. And if they end up playing Indiana, they could actually win that series and go to the 2nd round. They could. I think there's a lot of teams that are in playoff contention that could surprise a lot of different teams. There might be some upsets. Yeah. I also think Indiana could go to the 2nd round if they play Brooklyn. I mean, to me, that's a bang-bang series. Right. I don't know who I would pick until I see, you know, how they're looking towards the end of towards going into the playoffs. So, but we'll get into all that when we talk about the other teams and stuff. Yeah. But back to the Celtics. Do you think Kyrie will leave based on what you've seen lately?
It's rough to watch because the problem is, yes, they've been losing games that they should absolutely be winning. Yeah. But the attitude that Kyrie shows after a game, any of these press conferences, it's like he has no faith in his team. It's like he's already given up. And
he's kind of making it about him, too. He's like, well, I don't think we're going to lose in a 7-game series because I'm here.
Yeah, you can get the fuck out of here.
I mean, you should, if you're going to say something like that, you got to say, because I believe in us as a team. Don't say,
like, because I'm here.
Not because of me. Like, that's really selfish.
Right.
And somebody said to me, they were saying, like, what if Kyrie decides to leave and join the Lakers? And I was like, ooh, I'm getting mad thinking about it right now. I'd be so pissed off because
I'd roast him till he retires.
Because he requests a trade from Cleveland because he doesn't want to play with LeBron anymore, and he gets traded to the ideal scenario of teams that has a bright future, good young players, solid vets, perfect situation.
Everything
for you to start,
should add up for it to be a championship team.
Yes,
it should honestly be a championship team,
and that's what we were predicting, but it hasn't. Been that,
right, because you had a prediction, Celtics could upset the Warriors in the finals.
Yeah, I did. I did say that.
God, it just hasn't panned out even close to what anyone expected. No one expected
We'll see how the rest of the season goes and what happens in the playoffs. We'll get to that, but if it doesn't work out the way it should, I think he's gone. But anyways, so he got traded to the perfect scenario because he wanted to be the leader and lead his own team, and he can't even lead the team that's built for this, like literally the ideal scenario for you to get traded to, and you still can't do it. And then you go and join LeBron, the guy you asked for a trade to not play with. Away from. Exactly. You know how weak that is?
It just shows an incredible amount of just
no character. In my opinion.
A lack of character.
Like recently, he's been showing a lack of character. Especially in these interviews we keep mentioning.
Right. So and he's got his head down. He's got his hat over his eyes.
He's just.
He's like, no, it's not like that.
And he's just.
Nah, I don't want to talk about that. Next question.
Yeah, he's just being really shady, and he's not being a good leader. Like I know he asked for this.
You got to puff up your chest.
You got to practice
the questions,
what you preach.
Honestly. Yeah, it just.
It irritates me.
It does. It irritates me too.
I mean, not everybody has the characteristics within them to be a good leader, because I think you're born with that kind of thing.
Right.
To be a leader. And maybe he just doesn't have that in him. Maybe he's just meant to be a great player who's one of the 3 best on a team, on a championship contender like he was in Cleveland, right? Because he wasn't. Maybe he's just not built for the leadership role, and I get that. And I was talking to my dad about this, and he said he sees it, if he were to go back and join LeBron, as a sign of maturity, because like he realizes he was wrong and he needs LeBron. But even then, I'm like, that's just still not a good look, because
it's just like come back
of everything we just said. Exactly. It's like
it just looks so weird, and
it's like getting back with your ex after you guys swore
an ugly breakup,
like after a really ugly breakup. I mean, it's
and
one
Kyrie
thing. It's one thing.
Saying, "Hey, listen, I didn't mean that."
It's one thing if he had been traded to Boston without requesting the trade, then I would see it differently, because that's like getting back with your ex after you peacefully broke up, or it was a mutual thing or whatever. It's different, right? So I don't know. Or it's like you were forced away because one of you had to move or something. I don't know. I'm just making up analogies.
Metaphors really going in depth here.
But it'd be a different story if that were the case. But since you requested a trade specifically because you didn't want to be, quote, overshadowed by him, it's not a good look whatsoever.
Right.
It's a
as
soft
as the
move.
Spotlight, this has been a true test of character. This whole season really has.
Yeah, like he said, it's been a trying season for them.
Yeah, and just
a lot of ups and downs. A
lot of ups and downs, mostly downs though.
Yeah, and this isn't even like they're still like over 10 games above 500, so it's not like absolute panic. You know what I mean? It's just it hasn't gone the way we all predicted it to, and that's what's causing the panic. But like he says, it's still hard for me to see someone beating them in a 7-game series, or at least it was for a while. Now I can see, based on what I've seen the past week or so, I can see Toronto or Milwaukee maybe beating them, but God, but it's still weird to say because of how far they got last year. But I mean, the teams have gotten so much better in the East.
Oh yeah.
That it's
I think
not a fair
all
comparison.
teams have really risen to
absolutely
much better standards. They expect a lot more out of each other. And,
absolutely.
It almost seems like some of these teams were like, let's wait a little bit. Okay, now we're gonna make a push.
Right.
That's what it seems like to me sometimes. Yeah. It's just that it's like, well, the talent was there, it just didn't click.
Right. And now there's teams making a bunch of trades to get better and signing new people, and just player development has been huge for a lot of teams over the past year or two.
Right.
Guys like we see Siakam, who's emerged as a star.
Crazy.
So, but we'll get to we're getting into the playoff talks, but I want to save that for the end. But I just want to say this.
Kyrie and
Celtics?
I
mean, based on what I've seen lately, it doesn't look like he enjoys playing with his team that much, and it doesn't look like his team really enjoys playing with him all that much.
Right.
And if that's the case,
it almost makes me think it's like if they just like. If, like, say Kyrie got injured again and they just moved Terry Rozier to the starting, they might actually be a playoff-ready team.
I mean, they're a playoff-ready team now, I think. It's just...
I don't think so. I mean, right now, no.
To me, you need a player like Kyrie Irving to win a championship. It's just they don't have the chemistry yet. And they need to get it real soon, or else I'm really going to pick Toronto. Like, I would pick Toronto today. I would pick Toronto and Milwaukee over them, but depending how they look at the end, I might change my mind. If this last home stretch for them goes the way it should, well, I wouldn't say the way it should, but goes, much better than it has been all year.
Right.
Maybe it's
goes how people
maybe it's a different
it.
story. Exactly. We'll see what happens. I mean, maybe last night was a good testament to what's to come because of how they played as a team. So we'll see. But like I was saying, it looks like neither him nor the team enjoy playing with one another. So I think he's gone.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like it's a fit. I think it's just...
If they lose in the first or second round, he's definitely gone.
Oh, yeah.
If they lose in the Eastern Conference Finals, I think there's a chance he stays, but it's sort of unlikely. Especially if they start playing well as a team in the playoffs, then we'll see. That also could change the conversation. But if they get to the finals, whether they win or lose, I think he stays. Yeah. Especially if especially if the chemistry is there when playoffs start.
Yeah.
Or in the playoffs itself. So that's all I got.
Yeah. Kyrie, get it together, man. The whole team needs to get it together. Yeah, it doesn't all fall on Kyrie.
He's got to stop this negative attitude.
Right. He just doesn't have confidence in his players.
Exactly. That doesn't set the tone in the locker room in a positive way. Like, you look at leaders of other teams, like, best example I can think of right now is, like, Damian Lillard. I mean, no matter what, he's
right. He's a stand-up guy. He stands up for his guys.
And there's whether it's a tough loss or a bad loss, he's still the positive guy.
The Blazers go through some bad losses,
and he's
I mean, like tough losses, like a game winner or something.
Yeah, like stuff happens, throughout every team. But yeah, he's always the guy in the locker room who you hear them talking about it on the broadcast of the national TV games, how good of a leader he is, because whether it's the first guy, whether it's a starter or the last guy on the bench, he treats everybody the same, and he's always encouraging all his teammates, and he says the right things and does the right stuff on the floor and off the floor to create the winning mentality, because you know how they say like the team goes as he goes. Yeah. It's basically that. I mean, he's the guy who, like I said, does everything right from a leadership standpoint.
He's their guy.
And then Giannis is also a good leader because he's the same type of guy. Who else? I'm looking around. Steph Curry. I mean,
Steph Curry
sets the tone for the locker room.
Yeah, and he doesn't try to,
the team goes
like
as they
buck
go.
up and be like, I'm the leader. Yeah. I run this. No,
it's about laid back. Selflessness.
Yeah. He has led the Warriors through his unselfishness.
Yes, and that's what makes a good leader. And I don't really see that in Kyrie, the selflessness and stuff, because he still has a bit of an ego. Too big of an ego to be a leader, and like that goes back to what we were saying about the leadership characteristics that you're that are within you from the time you're born. It's leadership isn't something you can just teach or learn. I don't think. I think you have that already in your mind and in your character. So that's all I really got on him. I mean, I hope the best for the Celtics, for their sake, and for Kyrie's sake, because I like watching him play in Boston, but I'm not so much recently because of everything that's been going on. Right. But we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting.
Maybe all this is happening because Uncle Drew was like one of the most trash movies I've ever seen.
Was it really bad?
It was
I haven't seen it.
So bad.
Was it
really?
Oh
my god!
I don't
know. I don't know if he wrote it.
I think he was just an actor in it.
Bro, it was so bad. They got like discount fat Kevin Hart in it.
Oh no!
I forgot what's his name.
I know Shaq was in it.
Shaq was in it.
Was it really that bad though? I haven't seen it.
It was bad, dude.
Damn.
Plot holes, terrible, back and forth dialogue. I don't know. If there's any bigger mistake than this move to the Celtics, it's that fucking movie.
It's the movie. Damn. It must really be that bad.
I tried to watch it. It was like I saw it was like it came up on HBO, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. I didn't get to see it. I'll watch it.
Right.
Halfway through it, I'm like, this is garbage.
Well, thanks for letting me know I was going to watch it, but I probably won't now.
Please don't. Save yourself.
Save myself? All right, I got you. Let's go ahead and move into our last three topics here. Let's talk about the MVP race. I think Giannis has started to run away with it, and I got James Harden second and Paul George third. That's my top three. The reason I have Giannis ahead of James Harden, though, is because what James Harden did, averaging 40 points for an entire month, was
averaging
40.
I thought you were saying the 30.
The 30-point streak, all that. Both of those stats were obviously amazing, but Harden in the clutch, he just jacks up. We've talked about it before. He jacks up those stupid step back contested threes, and sometimes he ends up, as great as he is, sometimes he melts down in those moments and kind of costs his team to win sometimes, instead of deferring to Chris Paul, who's much smarter with the ball than he is down the stretch of games. Right. Instead of deferring to him, instead of deferring to him late in games to make the right decisions and close the game out, he'll just take the stupid shots himself, and sometimes he ends up costing them the game.
And to me, I honestly think some of that has to do with just D'Antoni giving him
the ultimate light. Yeah, that's what Nathan has been saying. He's like, somebody needs to dim his green light a little bit.
Right.
Or tell him to at least...
It made sense when all these injuries were happening, but the roster's starting to become healthy.
Exactly.
Again,
now that
it makes
Capella,
more sense for him to take a step back and not take...
Exactly.
Even when I saw that contested long bomb 3 on Twitter the other day, I was just like,
from
still
Trae
not
range.
A good shot.
Yeah, that was from where Trae shoots him.
Right.
But But what I want to say, going back to what you said about the team being healthy again, you got Chris Paul back now, Capella and Eric Gordon are all back. I mean, the only reason he had to play that way, so he says had to play that way, was because they were out. And then he told Steph at All-Star Weekend, I don't want to play like this anymore. And then he continues to play like this, even when his team is healthy. So I think he enjoys it, doing it. Like, obviously,
a part of his ego most definitely is like he likes the fact that he's carrying the team,
and he wanted the streak to continue. You could see he was kind of hunting for it towards the end of some games and stuff.
People were like, "You finally." It's like people are like, "Oh, he gave up. This is a sign of maturity." He was gonna do it unless the Hawks had to trap him to keep him from going for that. BS.
I think that was also just a sportsman-like thing. I mean, they obviously had sealed the game. There was no need to try to score.
People get on Russ for stat padding. James Harden stat pads a good bit too.
He did it a lot during that 30-point stretch.
Yeah.
30-point streak.
People are gonna not to take away from that. I mean, that was he does it for these glamorous stats, for like the triple-double, the double-double.
I mean, he had some phenomenal games, a lot of really fun games.
Round out of 48 to a 50.
Like unreal clutch performances and just
that one game against the Warriors where he hit that game winner.
That was an iconic moment.
It really was, because that was like one of the most contested shots I've ever seen in my life.
Assuming Giannis wins this year the award, that'll probably be the best season of a runner-up ever for the award. I mean,
unless he's absolutely trashed for the rest of the season, which I can't see happening.
No, and just like that was a phenomenal stretch. But I look at Giannis and Harden has had a phenomenal season, 35 points per game, 36 points per game, something like that. But Giannis has led his team. Of course, Coach Bud has had a lot to do with it too. But they're the first team to clinch a playoff berth. Best team, best record in the NBA, best team in the East, arguably best team in the NBA also. And he's just, like I mentioned earlier, great leader, putting up like 27, 13, and 6, something like that.
Crazy stats.
Couple blocks too, and he's just unstoppable.
Right. He has that.
Means so much to his team.
He's taken a lot of like what Russ has been doing this year, as far as using the gravity of his drives to the rim and kicking out, finding the open man, seeing who's double teaming.
Exactly.
I see him doing that a lot when he gets these assists, because it's easy for him to shoot it out to an open person when he's going to get triple teamed at the rim for obvious reasons.
Yeah, and he's got a great roster around him, like you just mentioned.
Right, he's got great shooters when your center can just snipe you like that.
Brooke Splash Mountain.
Splash Mountain. What a legend.
I know, right?
Bro, there's no more satisfying feeling for me right now than watching him just drain threes.
It's so fun to watch. Remember that game earlier this year? He had 8 of them.
Oh my God, it's crazy.
But a point I wanted to make is, granted, he has a great coach and a great system and great teammates around him. I don't want that to discredit what he's done all season. Like, you can't penalize a great player for having a great team built around him. If anything, his greatness has made his team great.
Right, and again, like we were talking about with Kyrie, you can have great pieces around you. You can have the world handed to you, but if you don't make it work and work within the system, it's not going to pan out.
That's a great point. Like, we see how good Kyrie's team is on paper, but it doesn't work because of what we talked about. But you look at Giannis's team, which looks a little bit worse on paper than the Celtics do. They're a much better team,
and a lot of that has to do. Their stats were boosted, and it seems like wow, they're doing really well. A lot of it has to do with Giannis being.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
He's been able to pass a lot more. It's like a ridiculous point guard sometimes. Just the way
his passing ability has gotten much better over the years. I mean, he's just an all-around great player. I mean,
in my head, when you can palm the basketball as easily as a Giannis can, you should be able to make some pretty decent passes.
And they criticize him for not being able to shoot, but he's still averaging 27 points per game.
He'll still drain a 3. He can still do it. He might airball it, but that's the difference between someone like a Ben Simmons and and a Giannis, is the fact that he's not afraid to.
At least he's taking them. And
taking them with confidence. When you see Ben Simmons do it, he's like,
and Giannis makes some of them. But again, if you like, players average 27 points per game who can shoot. Just because he doesn't do it and he's still putting up those numbers, it doesn't mean anything different. And his team is obviously succeeding, like we talked about. So whether he has a jump shot or not doesn't matter, in my opinion, because look at his stats, look at the impact he has on his team, look at the team's record, look at all of that, just absolutely phenomenal. So I think this is his year to win it.
It most definitely is, and We kind of predicted it early in the season.
Yeah.
You know,
he was one of our. I said James Harden would repeat. That was my prediction, and it looked like he was going to for a while. But I don't want to say Giannis has run away with it, but I think
no one has run away with it right now.
Yeah, I think he's in the lead, especially if they keep winning games and he keeps having these.
The thing is with Giannis,
games.
it's the consistency at which he not carries, but is able to lead his team.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
With Paul George, you know, he'll be able to go crazy scoring tears, you know, be a team player, but there are some nights where he disappears and he'll brick like 5-game winners.
Yeah, there's nights Paul George will go like 7 for 22, and then there's games he'll explode for 40+ and hit the game winner and just be a phenomenal all game.
Great player regardless.
And he's having the best season of his career, you know? And and that just goes to show you how good the league is now. I mean, we've got 3 phenomenal seasons going on at once, and only one guy can win the award.
You can Euro step from the 3-point line and dunk it on your head.
Yeah.
Good God, good luck.
Seriously, man. I mean, even without the jump shot, he's still unstoppable. There's nothing you can do sometimes. Right. You know, if you hold him to under 30, you did a good job.
Right.
You know.
And that's something all 3 of these candidates have in common is that, you know, at times they can be unstoppable.
Yeah.
You know. Like with James Harden, you know, we've grown about the contested threes that he chucks up sometimes, but oftentimes he does drain those.
Yes.
You know, or he'll draw the foul.
But sometimes late in the game it's not working, and he continues to do it, and he'll cost his team.
Yeah, and I think part of that,
or they'll barely win, and it's like, well, if you had just made the right play, you would have won by 10 instead of 2.
But I also think part of that, I don't think it all should fall on James Harden. I feel like Mike D'Antoni does give him, he ultimately gives him that ridiculously green light.
Yeah.
I think that has a little bit to do with it because when I've seen interviews with Mike D'Antoni, I don't know if it's D'Antoni or Mike D'Antoni because that's
I just call him Mike D'Antoni. I think it's
I don't want to be super American, but he also seems very American, so it's anyways. When I see the interviews with him and he's talking, it's like, what do you do when it's like with James Harden when he's gone to scoring tears like this? He's like, let him do his thing.
Yeah.
He's just like, you fam. That's basically what he tells James Harden. He goes out there and does it. Right.
That's the player he is, and I don't know if he necessarily makes his teammates better in the way that Giannis does.
No. I think he's very deadly. I don't think he, brings out the best in his players all the time the way Giannis does, like you said. And
the criteria for MVP changes year by year. Like last year it went to Harden because he had a phenomenal season and they were the best team in the NBA, record-wise.
Mm-hmm. Nearly beat
the Warriors. So you could argue they were the best team in the NBA. And, last year winning had a lot to do with it. The year before that when Russ won it, they were the 6th seed. And the narrative was that he had no help and whatnot, carried his team, triple-double, whatever. This year I think it's going to be another, winning matters type season because I wouldn't be mad if Harden or Giannis won it, or Paul George for that matter. But I just think the impact Giannis has had on his team and the culture and around the team and the winning mindset. Like you jump from finishing 7th last year to likely 1st this year, and you've ascended yourself into MVP, the man. I think that says a lot about him and his team as a whole. So I think, like I said, what he does on the court, off the court, and ultimately for his team will win him the award this year, and because how good his team will finish, probably first seed.
He's just so hungry for it. He wants. I feel like ultimately that wins out. He's just that much hungrier than his competition. You know, you see, talking about he won't train with other players.
Yeah, that's a good point.
A lot of old heads love that quote. But I don't think there's that big of a deal, with training with other players. But Giannis is so competitive. I remember one of the times when I realized just how competitive he was just his excitement and that playoff game winner that Chris Middleton hit.
Yes.
And he was like, he ran up. He was like, oh my God, okay, what do we do now?
Are you talking about the one that tied the game?
I think
it's the Celtics in Game 1.
Yeah, it tied it and went into overtime.
Yeah.
When Rozier thought he hit the game winner, and then he tied it up.
Yep.
And Giannis was so ready. He was so excited. He wants it. That he has that hunger, and just he wants it so much more.
He's selfless. He loves the success of his teammates, and that's not something you see in a lot of guys.
Right.
And Yeah, I think that's why he should win. And something that Harden does is he kind of campaigns for it. Like he's like, I should be the MVP, or he's like 2 times. Remember, he was like saying I'm.
He did that after he hit the game.
Yeah, I mean that was tough as hell.
Oh yeah,
I would have probably done.
That's
the same
how
thing.
I was like, go ahead.
But he campaigns for it publicly more than the other guys,
right?
Which
you think that might make the.
I don't want to say that's a knock on him, but like, I don't know. It comes down to being selfless again,
right?
And I don't really see that in Harden as much. But
yeah.
That's not to take away from the historically great season he's had and the phenomenal player he is.
Him and Paul George have both been amazing.
Yeah, and it sucks that Paul George probably won't. Like he'll make first team All NBA, which is great, but it just sucks he won't win like a physical award for it. I mean, you get an award, you get like a plaque or a trophy or something for being first team, I think, but you won't win he's not going to win like the MVP.
Unless he goes on a ridiculous tear.
Because that sucks because he's had the best season of his career
right.
by
people
far.
talk
Putting
about
up
storylines, especially with
highs.
Giannis.
Yeah,
and think about a storyline with Paul George. Horrific injury with Team USA, and then comes back to play at this level.
Yeah,
I don't think anyone expected him to come back this strong.
Right, exactly. And who knows? Maybe next year will be his year. You never.
Right.
Like there's always
a lot of people fear that he might be peaking right now. I think that's what you were getting at.
I wouldn't say he's definitely in the middle of his prime. Like this is the best year of his career. He'll probably have another year or 2 like this before he starts to not have. Like he'll still have great seasons after these next year. After what am I trying to say? After this year, next year, and the next year, he'll still have great seasons. But the peak season will probably come next year or the year after that. But he'll still have good seasons afterwards before he starts to exit his prime and be on the downhill.
Do you think PG will win an MVP at some point?
I would like him to, because he's one of my favorite players. If he's gonna do it, it's gonna be in the next 2 to 3 years, I would think, or the next 2 to. If it's not this year, the next year, that's probably his window to win it.
Yeah.
But by that time, I think we'll see like the rise of these young stars starting to bud and put their names into the conversation.
Right.
So, because like Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, James Harden, LeBron James, all these guys are getting into their 30s now, and it's going to become the young guys league pretty soon. In the next five years or so.
The future is now.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. I think Giannis is going to be a perennial MVP candidate for a while, and we'll see who else ascends. I mean, it's kind of unpredictable. Like we might see. If Kyrie gets into a better situation on a team, maybe he'll ascend himself into that conversation. You never know. No one expected Paul George to be an MVP candidate this year until it happened.
Right.
We'll see what happens. You got anything else on that, on the MVP race?
No, I think we really emptied it out as far as that's concerned.
Yeah.
And just shout out Jokic because he's been having a phenomenal season as well.
That's crazy. We don't even mention him as much as the other guys, and they're the 2nd seed in the West, and he's a selfless superstar,
right?
Like the other guys are too.
Just his style of play is so interesting.
Yeah, and he's a great passer, one of the best passing big men, if not the best passing big man in league history.
His basketball IQ is off the charts.
Oh, absolutely, and he's not the most athletic guy, but he's a phenomenal player.
Like I said with him and Ojale, like built like me, except just bigger.
Right, and he doesn't jump or run really. I mean,
not
he
really.
runs, but he doesn't jump.
But he can still do that little behind the back Euro step and kill you. And then you're like, what just happened?
He has phenomenal vision. He's a great shooter. Just does so many things well for his team.
Great footwork, great awareness.
Yeah,
just shout out Jokic for that. Sucks that he's not even in that top three conversation for that.
Yeah, and it just sucks. A lot of guys have great years and don't quite get the recognition that they deserve. Like there's not like a congrats on 4th place in the MVP voting. Here's your trophy. Like you don't. Right. It sucks. I mean, sucks that those guys who have such great seasons don't get an award for it. Mm-hmm. Even though they deserve it, there's always somebody else who's more deserving, unless you're the winner of it, of course. So, all right, let's get to Rookie of the Year race. This has been a hot topic the last couple of weeks.
Things are heating up.
Yeah, Luka Doncic jumped out to an early start. He's been consistent all year, averaging 20, like 5 and 5 or 6 and 5, something like that. One of the best rookie seasons ever, right? I mean, phenomenal shooter, great playmaker, just a great young player who's obviously destined for a phenomenal career.
Oh, absolutely.
And then Trae Young started off pretty not great.
Let's be honest. He started pretty rough.
He had a hot start to the season, and then from there, like the whole month of November was kind of a struggle for most of it. And then February, all of February, averaging 22 a game, 9 assists, like 40% from three and high 40s from the field. So his shooting percentages were bad. Oh, that's the other thing I forgot to mention about Luka is he's been an efficient scorer, or at least 40, like high 30s from three, mid 40s from the field, 43-ish.
Right.
So he has been a somewhat efficient scorer, and Trae has slowly upped his averages to like 42 from the field and
feel like
mid 30s from three. So he's
regained some confidence, and he's also realized, what's a good shot, what's a bad shot, what's a good time to pass.
Yeah, Luka's been playing professional ball since he was 16.
Right.
And Trae, this is his first year really of professional
Real
basketball.
Madrid had his rights at like 13.
Right,
the kid's been in the system for a long time.
Yeah, he's
always played above his age group.
Exactly. He's been a phenomenal basketball player, or at least a professional basketball player for longer than Trae has. Probably 3 to 4 more years than Trae was. But Trae, like, it's funny. Both of these guys have become such rookie phenoms that they're known by their first name.
Right.
Isn't that crazy?
Because they're very distinct. Trae
and Luka.
Come on, and Luka.
That's cool to me, is that these guys are going to be known by their first names for their entire career.
Ice Trae.
Anyways, but we've seen some phenomenal games from both guys all year. Recently, Trae, last night I was at the game. That's why my voice is a little bit hoarse, because I was screeching and
cracking a little bit,
yelling and clapping.
Screaming.
Man.
I was screaming at my house watching that game.
Yeah, I mean, he dropped 49 points and 16 assists in a quadruple overtime game. I think he had 45 at the end of the first overtime, but he made a game, what should have been the game-winning three.
I think he had like 41 or
something like that.
He good.
What should have been the game-winning three at the end of regulation to put him up 3, and he had been doing just nasty stuff all game, more nasty stuff in the overtimes, and ultimately they lost to the Bulls, and Zach LaVine had a great game, 47 points. It was just a and it was the 3rd highest scoring game in NBA history, and I got to watch a battle of 2 young stars, and oh man, and he's the first rookie ever to have 45 or more points and 10 or more assists in a game ever, and he joins like MJ and LeBron as the only rookies in the last 40 seasons, last 40 years to have that kind of stat line, and also is on the same list as like Curry, LeBron and Michael Jordan and like Iverson, with rookies with 30 or more point games and 10 assists. I mean, like Trae Young has come into his own and has proved all of his doubters wrong, and has just had an absolutely phenomenal year. Like, he's averaging like 18 a game and 8 assists on shooting numbers that continue to get better and more efficient. I mean, he's improved with every game. The game has slowed down for him, and he's just been phenomenal lately.
And I think assists definitely have such more meaning to them, because with just like scoring in general, it's up to you to make the shot, right? Yeah. With assists, you're trusting your teammates to make that shot. You can give them an absolute dime, but
and they'll miss it.
It's not 100% that they're going to make that shot. So really, like, I'd love to see a stat line of like, if every like Trae Young solid pass, was made, or
he'd probably average like 15 assists.
Right.
Maybe more.
Not a knock to surrounding pieces with the Hawks. I mean, obviously they don't have the best lineup.
Neither of them have the best roster built around them. Talking about Luka and Trae, but they're still having phenomenal seasons. I mean, I think Luka is still probably going to end up winning the award just because of how consistent he's been all year. But I do think that Trae has almost caught him. At least almost caught up to him.
Catching up. It's close.
If he continues to play at this level, he might steal the award from Luka. But
especially because people have it fresh in their mind what happened at the end of the season.
Right. But I just think Luka's consistency should be rewarded also. But if Trae continues to play like this, and if he can average 25 a game and 8 assists for the rest of the season over the next games, he might steal the award.
Just like last year, this is going to be another great rookie class.
Yeah, Oh man, the rookies this year are phenomenal. We didn't even mention Bagley and Ayton and Jaren Jackson Jr.
We mentioned him getting injured.
Yeah. Oh yeah, both of those guys got injured. But all the top 5 picks this year, and then some later, down later in the draft, have just this rookie class has been so good, just like last year. And it sucks we're not going to be able to see the top 3 rookies in the playoffs. We were spoiled last year by seeing Mitchell, Tatum, and Simmons all in the playoffs. We're not going to see any of these guys unless the Kings make it. We're probably not going to see any of them in the playoffs, which sucks.
Right.
But next year we might see some stuff. But to me, this Rookie of the Year race has heated up, and they've both just been so fun to watch, especially lately, and I love it. To me, these 2 guys are going to be Hall of Famers one day, and they're on the path. You've seen the graphics of the records they've set as rookies and who they're in, the names they're on the same list as.
The comparisons they're drawing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's time to quit comparing these two. Obviously, both teams got the guy they wanted, and they've so far they've panned out as what we want them to be.
That's the thing. I've said this before that if the teams did not trade, if Trae.
If Trae was in Dallas and Luka was in Atlanta?
Yeah. If the roles were reversed, the switch never happened.
I don't think we'd be seeing the seasons we've seen.
No, I feel like Trae might have crumbled a little bit under the spotlight that is Dallas. It's not a huge market, but it does have somewhat of a it's been intense.
Well, it's situational, for each guys. If Luka was in Atlanta and Trae was in Dallas, I just don't think either of them would be having as good of a season.
Right. I feel like just the fits make more sense.
Yeah, I mean, and both teams got the guy they
beginning, people were like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
But now that things have panned out a little bit,
it's so many people
both succeeding in their respective positions.
So many people were wrong about each of those guys. Luka, they were saying Luka was going to be a bust from Europe, and they were saying Trae was going to be a bust. And both of these guys, especially Trae, have made everybody eat their words, and it's worked out great for each team. And these guys are 2 future superstars. I mean,
absolutely,
we're seeing the birth of just stardom in both of these guys. And I, as a basketball fan and as a Hawks fan, they both make me so happy for the future of the league. And
right, and like you said, with these players getting in their early to late 30s, kind of this different wave of players.
The league is in good hands.
Yeah. Which is, something not, all leagues can say.
Exactly.
Sometimes then there's a lull or.
Yeah, there's a couple year stretch where in some leagues where it's okay, this era isn't as good as the previous one, or this era isn't living up to what we expected. It's just kind of a boring couple years at least. But in the NBA, it's different because you've got so much talent coming into the league every year and players getting better every year that it's always going to be fun, especially as they continue to get better. So it's going to come down to the final stretch to see who wins this Rookie of the Year award. But like I said, I think Luka's still in the lead and will probably win it unless Trae, like I said, continues to have these type of games or at least just averages, 20, 23, 25, somewhere in there, and close to double digit 8 or more assists per game.
How mad would you be if they both got a simultaneous Rookie of the Year, if they shared a Rookie of the Year award?
Would not be mad at all.
You think that would be deserved? You think that would be the right decision?
Yeah, if I had to pick,
as far as right now.
If I had to pick one or the other, I don't want to.
Right, you don't want to pick one.
I don't want to. They're both phenomenal, so I don't want to pick one. I'd pick Luka Young or Trae Doncic if I could. So if the voting ended up to be co-Rookie of the Year, which it probably won't, I'm all for it. I think both guys are deserving of the award, but only one can win it. We saw that with Simmons and Mitchell last year. My personal favorite was Mitchell.
Right.
But both guys were definitely deserving. So we'll see what happens.
Most definitely.
But I love both of them. And being a Hawks fan, obviously I have a little bit of bias towards Trae, but that's just because he's my favorite rookie, one of my favorite players. But I also really like Luka, so.
Right.
But I'm giving.
They're
both
because
so
we're
good.
both Atlanta fans, we're rooting for Trae. Doesn't mean we're hating on Luka or we're dismissing any accomplishments that.
And I even said I think Luka probably will still win it. deservingly so. Yeah. If he does win it, but it's not a blowout like it once was in the season. Like
right. I think it seemed like it was a runaway.
It's getting closer to being neck and neck. Right. I think Luka still has an edge, but it's not big like it once was.
Who do you think is at that third spot?
Probably Bagley.
I think so. Obviously not up to that same level. It'd be like, Luka and Trae kind of like right neck and neck, and then Marvin Bagley's a good bit lower, but still contributing.
To me, Jaren Jackson, Bagley, and Ayton are all kind of on the same level. And then to me, Trae and Luka are the two best out of this class for sure.
A lot of that has to do with just that they're very score first.
Yeah.
Well, I don't mean that because
they're first options on their team.
Right.
Which helps.
Right.
But not like we keep saying, this rookie class is going to be phenomenal. It's so crazy how good these guys are coming into the league, and it hasn't always been this way. It's taken a while sometimes for the rookies to be good.
Right, because you get busts. They happen. Yeah. That's why some people, they'll root for people to be busts, which I'll never understand why you want someone to fail.
I would never root for somebody to fail.
Right. When Luka Doncic was balling out, I was like, it's like, dang, that looks bad on us, but I'm happy that he beat that narrative of EuroLeague can't translate to
the NBA, which it obviously can. I mean,
that Luka's like, it's easier to score.
It doesn't work for some guys because they weren't ready. They weren't built for the NBA game, but he obviously is.
Right.
And was.
He was ready for that spotlight, and he has taken it and.
Ran with it.
Yeah, he took it and ran with it, and Trae's kind of saying, hey, hold up.
Yeah, I mean, he's starting to get the recognition from the national media that he really deserves.
Right. And it's no longer just the Hawks Twitter praising him.
Yeah,
you actually see it from
media.
Bleacher Report.
ESPN, SportsCenter, all of them.
Yeah.
Because you've been seeing it from, with Luka all year, the national media praising him, deservingly so. But now you're seeing it with both of them, and I like to see that because that just goes to show how he's proving everybody wrong, how they both are, so I'm a big fan of it all. So you want to talk about the playoffs and the teams in the playoffs? Push?
We can talk about it a little bit. We kind of already did just a little bit.
We already did some of it,
Yeah, because we were excited.
Yeah.
We wanted to get into it. But
we kind of hit on the East for the most part.
Let me just look at the standings and Let me see what I was talking about with the whole Eastern Conference and you see just the bottom feeder teams
right. We're just coming towards the home stretch.
Vucevic is great, but Orlando in the playoffs.
Snooze,
bruh.
Wake me up when the series is over.
Oh man,
Raptors
they're 9th seed right now, but still the fact that they're even close is
they're gunning for it. I mean, they've had a somewhat turnaround season, but they're not fun to watch at all. To be honest with you, I mean, sometimes they can be. I don't watch a lot of Magic games.
They're frustrating to watch, man. Let's see. Okay, so Golden State, obviously, first with Western Conference. Denver, OKC.
We mentioned the Nuggets. They've been playing really well.
Absolutely.
I think we kind of hit on all this already a little bit.
Yeah. Houston's 5th seed. Utah is surprisingly, I think they're farther than a lot of people. I don't know. What I'm trying to say is, at the beginning of the season, it was rough. It was kind of rough. They weren't where they were even defensively. They didn't even have that identity, back yet.
But now that you can see they beat the Nuggets the other night.
Right.
You can see they're playing how they played last year, where great team play, obviously greatly coached, good system in place.
Coached a big league.
And they just play a really good brand of basketball. And, Donovan Mitchell's obviously the focal point of that, and he's been the star that he was last year this year.
Right.
Which I like to see. He's also one of my favorite players.
Yeah. And again, it just goes back to these 7th, 8th seeds just being a snooze fest. Clippers and San Antonio.
Let me see this real quick. Yeah, I mean, I'd rather see the Kings because they're a fun, young, exciting team.
Right. Sometimes it comes down. It's like, dang, I kind of want to see this, even though they have a worse record. You're rooting for these teams to, edge on in there.
I would much rather see a Golden State Kings series than Golden State Clippers or Spurs.
Right, because the Golden State Kings game have been so good each time.
Exactly. I kind of want Utah to fall to the 7th, which probably won't happen, so they can play Denver in the first round.
That'd be interesting because they seem to have been a good matchup for each other.
And if the standings stay the way they are now, we'd get a rematch of Jazz Thunder in the first round.
That would be interesting.
3-6 matchup, because we know what happened last year.
That's interesting.
I would pick Oklahoma, probably in. I want to say 6, but 7 sounds a little more realistic.
I'll say 6.
I'll probably say 6 also, just because how much better OKC is this year compared to last year. And
they're both
Utah's
defensive powerhouses. It might not be the most entertaining game to watch. I mean, some of it might be. Maybe they'll show out just because
it'll definitely be fun. That'll be a fun series.
You think so?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Close games, probably decided by less than 10 each win. So, not less than 10, probably 10 or less.
Who do you think, like, in the playoffs of any conference, is going to, put their play on playoff mode, and just their stats will go crazy in the playoffs? Who do you think is capable of doing that?
Well, obviously Golden State. They kind of
they're built to be the playoff.
I don't want to say they coast, but they coast.
They can coast and win these games.
Yeah.
They're just that good.
I think. See, this goes back to what I said about regular season success teams like Denver, Portland, Utah to some degree. Those 3 teams to me are built for the regular season. Maybe not so much. I think they're all capable of winning a first round playoff series.
Right.
We saw Utah do it last year. I don't know what the hell happened with Portland last year. They just, for some reason, the matchup was terrible. I don't know. Had no answer for AD.
Just a weird
this year,
series
like they've played really well this year. The Blazers have, and this is, to me, the team they have now. This is the best team that they've built around Damian Lillard.
Most definitely, I think so.
Like ever since LaMarcus Aldridge was there, this is the best team since then. So if they're gonna win a series this year and give somebody a fight in the second round, this is the year they need to do it.
Yeah,
both for Damian Lillard's legacy's sake and just for the Blazers organization.
Oh yeah.
Because, like I said,
I think if things don't pan out this season as far as playoffs, is something's got to give, and I think people are going to be moved around.
Yeah.
This offseason.
Yeah. For sure, probably like CJ or something.
Yeah, something like that.
I would, but CJ's been really good this year, at least, especially lately. I thought of Milwaukee and Toronto kind of as those good regular season teams, but they're beating good teams,
right?
Especially like good teams in the West.
It's not just a coasting thing.
Yeah, and good teams in the East. So I'm thinking, if they're showing this type of play in the regular season and doing really they're not just beating the not playoff teams. Like they're beating them and they're beating their competition pretty handily sometimes. And then they'll win. The late game execution is really good in those close games against good teams. So they're doing that now. I don't see why it wouldn't translate into the playoffs, because I looked at them as a regular season success team, but then, like I said, the way they're winning these games and playing looks like a really good playoff team. So I'm not considering them like that anymore. I do kind of consider Indiana that, just because they don't have a star power right now because of the Oladipo injury. But then that's what wins you games in the playoffs is your star power.
And that's what I was kind of
to me, it's going to be different in the East. A little bit.
Yeah.
Because they're such great teams and they play such great team play, that's going to win them games rather than the superstar. And then Milwaukee and Toronto have their superstar in Giannis and Kawhi, so there's that element also.
Right, and that's what's scary about those teams is that they play that great team ball and they're built for that regular season success, but they're also built to kick it into overdrive and just
playoffs because of the
throw
system.
It on your head.
Exactly, because of the system they have and the trust and togetherness that they play with. Right. I don't see why it wouldn't translate into the playoffs.
Right. You saw me tweet the other day. I think it was the Celtics Toronto game. Toronto just locked down. everyone.
Yeah, they blew out the Celtics, and
they just such suffocating defense.
Yeah,
and adding Kawhi to that.
Yeah,
good Lord,
they're deep. We talked about the offensive system. Some of these teams' defense, Milwaukee, Toronto, who else is OKC, Denver. All those teams and Utah.
Yeah, and
great defensive
teams. And I
teams.
knew from last year, as soon as Denver had at least a decent defense. I'm so sorry. I just dropped my phone, everyone.
As soon as they...
Okay, we're good. Oh, we're good.
Okay. Is that a fake crack?
No. It's
birds.
Yeah.
Okay, I
it's
thought
like
you...
a little... Everyone thinks that's cracks when they see my phone, but no,
yeah, okay, so anyways, you thought as soon as they had a good defense, they'd be...
Yeah, as soon as they had at least a moderately, defendable defense, that they'd make that push, and they have far exceeded expectations.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect them to be the 2 seed. I
expected them to be somewhere floating around 5, 6.
Yeah, because you look at the West playoff standings, 8th through 3rd are between 34 and 38 wins. All of them have between 3rd and 8th. All of them are between the 34, 38 range. Like there's 2 in the middle with 35, then 37, and that's it. 38. So they're all the same,
right.
Essentially. They're obviously not all the same, but record-wise, they're very close. And it's kind of middle-heavy. You know how they say, like, the East is kind of top-heavy. The West is top-heavy and middle-heavy.
Right,
so it's going to be really interesting what happens in the playoffs this year, because depending on the matchups and, what team ends up with what seed, it's going to affect who gets to the second round, especially in the East. We've talked about it if the 4-5 matchup is Boston and Philly, I really don't know who I'd pick. I'd have to see how they're playing towards the end of regular season and into the playoffs.
Right.
Especially if Boston doesn't figure out their chemistry issues, I might pick Philly. And if they lose in the first round,
right now it's Philly for sure.
Yeah, if they lose in the first round, it's over for Kyrie staying there.
Oh yeah, he gone.
Yeah, you can book it. And then Kevin Durant might leave the Warriors, which I assume he's going to. He's been, golly, I can't take my voice past a certain octave where it cracks because I was yelling last night at the game. Like it was so hyped, the arena. But anyways, he's been shady too, like Kyrie has been.
Oh, yeah.
To the media, and
we talked about
they
that.
both kind of seem like one foot in the door, one out.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what happens. It's starting to look more and more realistic of Kyrie and KD teaming up in
and it's
New
kind of
York.
like I said with that situation when they were talking about it, it's like you guys are just ruining locker rooms. I'm like, y'all just got caught.
Yeah,
y'all got your hand in the cookie jar.
Yeah, and then you see the effect that has had on the Celtics. Not so much the Warriors because they're already a well-oiled machine, as they say.
They'll be just fine. A lot of Warriors fans don't really even want KD because they have that knock in them. It's not real championships.
I myself want KD to leave because I want to see a couple more years of it being Steph Curry's teams before he starts to regress a little bit.
Right.
I want to see a couple more years of prime Curry when it's his team and he's the focal point of the offense and he doesn't have to share it with Kevin Durant. And Clay goes back to the number 2 option. I think that'd be more fun to watch. I personally don't like watching the Warriors that much when KD plays, to be honest. I just don't like watching them that much as much as I used to anymore. I don't know. It's just not the same. Yeah, man, that's really all I got. You got anything else?
Nothing else. Just, I don't know, bottom-feeding teams are kind of just in a weird space right now where they're fighting to get
Draft
blown
pick.
out in the first round.
Are you talking about in the East?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Whoever plays Detroit and Charlotte in the first round, that's just that's gonna be like I'm not even gonna watch a game. It would be painful.
Right.
I mean, Kemba Walker's great.
Kemba might hit like a game winner to steal one game.
Maybe. Kemba's phenomenal. It's just his team is not fun to watch.
Right.
Whoever Detroit plays, I mean, just they're gonna it's gonna be Milwaukee and Toronto who play both of those teams. Or if the Magic get in, I'm predicting a sweep of both games. Like you said, maybe at best one of those teams will win at the buzzer.
Right.
But that's it. Like, please just. Oh man, they should automatically advance. Like if you have more than 20 wins against your first round opponent, you should automatically advance to the second round.
Just say no games. Screw those teams.
I'm serious. They should
no 7th or 8th seed. Screw it.
If you have more than 20 wins against your first round opponent,
let the middle ground just like duke it out. The top teams because they had that winning.
You should get a bye. If you have more than 20 wins, then if you have more than 20 wins against your,
I mean, isn't that pretty much how NFL playoffs work?
Compared to your first round. Yeah, they get a bye.
Yeah, they get a bye week,
so
depending
good.
on their seeding.
Yeah. Man, I would love for that to be in the NBA because that would just let us escape any potential injuries in the playoffs that could alter, the second round or the eventual finals and conference finals, and that would just let us just move on. Or at least if they go up 3-0, just be like, all right, that's it.
If they go up 3-0.
No point in even playing this fourth game because, I mean, I hate saying you risk injury because that's not really a valid thing to say sometimes.
Right. Playing at all risks injury.
Yeah, exactly. It's part of the game, right? But also, it's just super boring. Who wants to watch a Bucks Magic or Bucks Hornets series? Like, what the outcome is going to be.
Oh, man. Yeah, that'd be ugly.
I just wouldn't watch a second of it.
Big ugly.
Big ugly. I'd be like, all right, when's the next game on? It's like, man, oh shit, we get Thunder Jazz next. All right, awesome. Can't wait to turn this off. So can't wait for that game to start because there's just so many better matchups than that.
Right.
But I would love a 4-5 matchup of Boston Philly, but at the same time, I don't want it.
Because you want to.
Because I want to see them both in the second round. I don't want
that'd
those teams
that'd
to
be
get
much
bounced
better
early.
if they both met in the second round.
Yeah, I'd like that. That's like realistically that could happen depending on where Indiana ends up sliding to, if they slide at all, or if Boston slides down. Brooklyn's not going to pass them. It looks like they're locked in the 5th seed. Philly might slide up and go into the 3rd, and then the 4-5 matchup would be Indiana-Boston. That would be more intriguing, at least as far as second round is concerned, because both should move on in that case. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be definitely very interesting this last home stretch to see where everybody ends up and what the matchups end up being, and then how the series themselves go.
And by the way, we will make brackets.
Yes, we're gonna do an episode where we talk about each series and what our prediction for the series is.
And the picture for the thing should be our brackets.
Yeah, we'll see.
And I'm sure our
that'd be too
outrageous
small to
takes
see.
might
we'll come back and listen to it and be like, damn, we were wrong about that. We'll see.
That's what's fun about it. You don't know what's going to happen.
Exactly. I don't know if the brackets in the thumbnail would be a good idea because you'd probably barely be able to see them. It'll probably just say like 2019 playoffs.
We'll put it in the video somewhere. Like put the thumbnail and then it's like here's the brackets.
Yeah. We'll figure something else. Something out.
Still in the works.
Yeah, we'll figure it out when that time comes. But I think that's going to do it for today. A lot of good discussion.
Yeah.
All right, but yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Leave a like if you did, comment and let us know what you think, and subscribe for more if you enjoyed, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
All right, later.